Hey everybody, Tall Family Films here. If you've ever thought about changing your own oil, but you saw oil change signs that said $30 and you thought you wouldn't save any money by doing it yourself, well, you should listen to the rest of this video. There are multiple factors that go into the cost of this, but the biggest one is the signs you're seeing are for conventional oil. And today's cars are going to run much better on full synthetic. In fact, yesterday's cars too. So don't buy your oil at AutoZone or Advance. I love AutoZone, but this is something you should buy at Costco or on Amazon. Amazon has just about every type of oil that you could need for probably $25 for 5 quarts. It's a great deal. Just find the one that matches your car. If you have doubts about buying Amazon brand oil, then you should watch this video in the upper right hand corner here. This guy will explain and show all kinds of tests he runs on the oil, and it may enlighten you about the brands of oil that you're currently buying, and maybe it's not the one that you should be buying. But if you were to pay someone to do a fully synthetic oil change, it's going to be in the $60 to $70 range to have someone do that for you. So yeah, you can save money by doing this yourself if you're talking a good oil change that you should be doing. You probably save about half by buying the supplies yourself. Okay, so as you saw, we started the car and we just want the engine to be warm. So we're going to run it. This engine was cold, so we're going to run it for about 3 or 4 minutes. We don't want it to be hot, but this will allow the engine oil to drain out a little bit easier. Okay, so in addition to needing oil and an oil filter in order to do this oil change, we also need a pan to catch the old oil in, and you might need some funnels like I have here. So in this particular car, adding oil requires you to add it way down here. So I need a long funnel for that, and I usually put the big funnel on top of it. Okay, so now getting to the fun part. So we go down under the car. We're going to locate a couple of things for you and just show you what everything looks like. This is the oil filter. On this car, most Hondas, Acuras, it's on the left side. It could be in the front of the car. That's the way it is on some Nissans and also on some American cars. It's in the front, but it's easy to see. It's a big round filter, and looking at your new filter, you know what you're looking for. This is the oil pan, and that says engine oil right on it. This arrow is pointing to the bolt that you will remove to drain the oil out. Let's talk about this for a second. We don't want to drain transmission fluid. My brother did that one time. He drained all the transmission fluid in his car, then he added 5 quarts of oil and burned up his transmission. So this is important. Make sure that what you're draining is engine oil. Most cars stamp it right on there, engine oil. If you have a doubt about what this is, you should research that and find out where the engine oil drains before you attempt to drain the oil. I can guarantee you this, you will not save money if you end up draining your transmission fluid. Okay, so this camera angles a little better from the back. So now you're looking at the bolt that I'm going to remove. That will drain the engine oil out. So I'm going to hit the camera accidentally here. Don't worry, I will get that fixed for you. I should also mention that this is not a clean job, okay? Be prepared to get a little bit of oil on you, perhaps on your clothes. So be dressed for the occasion. There's nothing quite like the satisfying feeling of warm oil dripping over your hands, but I'd cover them with gloves if I were you. I read a study recently that said that mechanics have a higher rate of cancer, and they believe it is from having in contact with all of the toxic chemicals and whatnot that go in and around working on cars. So take caution. Okay, so the last bit of oil is still draining out. So on some cars, you can actually move the pan and catch the oil that's dripping out and remove the filter at the same time. So that's what I'm going to try to do here. I just like to let every bit of oil drain out that it possibly can within reason. When it gets to single drops, I'm going to cap it off at that point. But so removing the filter it's a counterclockwise. It's just screwed on. And when you're putting them on, by the way, you just hand tighten them, which you'll see in a second. So sometimes you can loosen them with your hand. And I'd say about 30% of the time I have success just trying to get it off with my hand. This particular car is not going to show me that success. I really can't get it started here. So luckily, luckily they make a tool for this, and it's called an oil filter wrench. There's several types of them. This particular one that I'm going to use here will damage the filter in most cases, but that's okay because we're getting rid of this filter anyways. So just a very gigantically large wrench, and it allows us to get a grip on that can. Get a better camera angle for you, or maybe a worse one. All right, here we go. You can see the filter starting to move at this point. Once we get it started, then we can take it off with our hand. Oil is going to come out of this. This is, like I said, a messy process. This is probably the messiest part of it all, because you can't really control where the oil is. Not just one single place that it's dripping out of, and it kind of gets all over a lot of things. All right, so this one won't drip for a long time like the oil pan does. So I'm going to take a new filter. You can find out what filter goes in your car by going to mobile1.com, or sometimes if you have a car service manual, or any auto parts store will tell you the part number. All the part numbers are not common across all the brands. A lot of times they're similar, but they're not all in common. So I'm taking a little bit of oil off of the old filter and rubbing it onto the rubber ring on the new filter. So I have not seen in 30 years a rubber ring from the filter get stuck on the car, but always check the bottom of your old filter and make sure that the rubber ring is still present and that it's not stuck up on the car. If you put a double seal on there, it will blow out and all the oil will drain. Okay, so we just hand tighten this. Just, you know, you don't want to crank it down, but get it on there nice and tight. Then don't forget to put the plug back in for the engine oil. Let me make a note here that there is a washer that's usually on this bolt. It's called a crush washer. You can get them from the dealer, you can get them from an auto parts store. I would suggest you going and getting a crush washer. It just seals the pan so that oil doesn't drip out. So if you notice oil dripping on your driveway, it could just be that the crush washer wasn't used. It's just a very thin piece of metal that actually crushes when you put some pressure on it. There is a proper torque that would be used putting the bolt back in the pan. If you don't have a torque wrench and you don't know what the torque is, don't overdo this. You're working with a steel bolt and an aluminum pan, and I have seen it where you over tighten and then you will have oil dripping, and then you have a really big problem on your hands because you have to take the oil pan to somebody that can, you know, re-tap the hole, and then you got to reseal the oil pan with a gasket. It's just a big pain. All right, when everything's done, try to clean up a little bit. This stuff will burn off, but that's not pleasant. So I just take a paper towel or a rag and just try to clean up everything that I can see that's actually wet. All right, so now we need to put fresh oil back in. You can find out how much by looking usually in your user manual. Again, your auto parts store can tell you exactly how much oil goes in, but in mine it's 4.5 gallons. So gallons, 4.5 quarts. Definitely don't put 4.5 gallons back in your car. And this is a very simple thing. Like I said, you may need a funnel, you may not. On mine, it just makes it a little bit easier. And then you should have a dipstick that's easily locatable. Sometimes they're yellow in color, sometimes they're orange. And just check the oil when you're done. Make sure that you put the proper amount back in. Now, there is one other thing, that oil is not really fully through the filter at this point. Now, the car calls for 4.5 quarts. So I put 4.5 quarts in. I'm just checking right here to know that I've got oil on the dipstick. And then when you go and start the car, that will force oil through the filter. That will lower the amount of oil that's on the dipstick. You should wait about 10 minutes, by the way, after you have started the car so that the oil can re-drain to the pan, because that's what you're actually measuring. All right, so then we need to get rid of the old oil. So we take the container that we bought the new oil in, and I'm going to just drain the oil into it using a funnel. And then once you're done with this, you can take it to your local auto parts store. I'd call them first, but almost all of them will recycle old engine oil. So please don't throw it in the trash can. Take the time to drive it over there. It's a very simple process. They usually have like a big container in the back, and they just tell you to walk on back there, and you pour it in. So it's really easy. So if this video has helped you, you can really help me by subscribing to my channel. So I'm just like you. I've watched thousands of videos, how to do stuff, do it yourself on YouTube. I can tell you now that I'm making my own videos, it makes a huge difference when you subscribe and help out the creators that put the content together for you. So if you give the video a thumbs up too, that helps with all the algorithms that YouTube runs. So I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot.